All right, Mikey, we're live. Oh man, sometimes that this is the problem. I always start this thing before we come up with the best line of the day, and then we have to recreate it. So let's try it. Let's try it. So I was, listen, learning about cars in eighth grade did a lot for me, man. I knew that knowing about a Bunsen burner wasn't going to really, wasn't going to help me out. I never walked into somebody's house and saw a Bunsen burner there, but I sure knew about 53 Pontiacs.
Because your science teacher, Mr. Pfeffer,
Mr.
had a
Pfeffer
Pontiac.
with a P and a bunch of F's.
P, two F's, EIFFER.
No, I think it was PFFEFFER, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Pfeffer, Dr.
There's a ski lodge in Canada that he should visit, and you know which one it is.
Which one is that?
Banff.
Yes, Banff. I know it well. I went to I honeymooned there actually.
It's so Banff is so fine that they F it twice.
Yes. Well, the Canadians do that. The Canadians have a thing for that, I think.
By the way, I am addicted to Cash Cab, the Canadian version. I'm addicted to it. You can see it on Access TV. Oh my God, I watch it every night.
Now, what could be? I mean, it's better than the New York version.
It is actually. The host is better, and the people of Canada are freaks. Every one of them. Everybody that gets in that cab is a freak of some sort. Is whether he's in Toronto or Vancouver. They're towns for well-adjusted, visually pleasing freaks.
That's that's a great job, man. I mean, that's the people that came up with that. I mean, that was just that was an incredible idea. That was, I mean, having driven a cab, I've had these conversations. I've always thought that the coolest talk show in the world would be to mic up a cab, and I thought this way before Cash Cab. But I always thought it would be cool to have somebody, to mic up a cab and have it live on the radio. So as people got in and out, you could talk to them.
And the thing is, it's hard to find a cabbie, even a bad cabbie, even a poorly. I had a cabbie that didn't know where West Street was in New York. I had to give him directions on where we were going, but he was still willing to talk. He was still a gabby guy.
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't matter if you know where you're going. It just matters that you got a good line of crap. How are you, pal?
The meter's running. We'll figure it out. The meter's running.
Yeah, the meter's running. Let's go. We'll go up this street and see.
Besides doing the game show and paying the people cash and reading the questions and navigating the traffic, he really takes you to where you're going.
Many times, not always.
I mean the Cash Cab guy. He always seems to take them where they.
Oh, the Cash Cab guy, yeah. The Cash Cab guy always. Well, he knows enough to get. Now, in the early days, I forget the guy that did it. His name, the guy in the early days,
Ben Folds or something like that.
Ben something. Yeah, he
was good.
I mean, he really knew New York. I think he was like an ex-cab driver or something like that. I mean, he knew where he was going. Nowadays, I'm sure you plug it into a GPS and
there you go. That's right. Exactly.
You don't have to pay that much attention to where you're going. You just follow the GPS. But in those early days of Cash Cab, what was that, 95, 96, something like that? Yeah, you had to know where you were going. You had to be. Now, I think they did a great editing job on that show because having driven a cab, I'm not 100% sure that it could have gone as smoothly as they were.
Plus, you got to pick up people if they're only going 5 blocks. Well, they got $125 question, and that's it.
Right. Well, I guess. Well, if I remember how the show worked, didn't they get in and tell them where they were going? Or again, I always thought they had a producer outside to pick people.
I think you're right.
Because
plus, you have to have enough. And if it's pouring down rain, you still have to get 2 or 3 things in the can, or you can't keep up.
Yeah, there's no way that you would just get into a cab and start talking on TV. You'd have to get releases signed. You'd have to get all sorts of stuff done, I guess. I mean, maybe you could jump in the cash cab and do your thing, and then when you get to the end. But I'm just like
The thing about
everything in television.
the thing about the cash cab in Vancouver is everybody knows it's the cash cab. They get in and go, "Hey, you're the cash
Yeah,
cab
it probably says
guy."
on the cash cab, which still is a great concept. I mean,
That is its
it's still a
concept.
good concept, and the people who did the original cash cab really did a nice job of editing it up and making it look like it was just naturally. I got in the cab. Oh my God, I'm in the cash cab.
We
So
got $5 to go, and this question's worth $100.
yeah, and I always get the questions right in the cash cab. Well, how come I never got in the cash cab?
Well, here's a question for you for $100. What's the pitcher from the
Okay,
San Diego Padres that now pitches for the Giants that was the #1 Cy Young Award winner last year?
I would say the defending, or not defending, but the reigning Cy Young Award winner, huh?
Now pitches for the Giants, and his name is, I'll give you his first
Uh,
name, Blake. Blake is his first name.
Blake Snell.
Now you got it. You
Yeah,
can't fool around with Vinnie when it comes to baseball.
yeah. Blake Snell, former pitcher for the Tampa Bay Rays, and I forget where else he's pitched, but nice addition to the
Last year he was with Bob Melvin in San Diego.
right. Nice addition. Nice addition to the Giants, man. You got to listen. You got to have pitching to win, and he brings it.
And I had a vision. Remember, I told you we had all these injured pitchers. They're all going to come back about mid-season when everybody else gets tired. We're going to have 5 new pitchers, starting pitchers that came off the injured list, ready to go.
Right. And what's the traditional wisdom? If you can hang around at 500 until the middle of the season.
Well, if you're a Giants, you have to beat the June swoon.
Yeah. But if you start July 4th at 500, traditionally people think you got a chance in the second half, especially if you're getting injured players back off of the I don't call it the injured list.
The IR,
you can't call
right?
it the disabled list. The IR, yes. If you are getting pitchers off of not just pitchers, anybody, off of that list, especially if you got a power hitter or something like that. Now, I'm going to say from experience, Michael, that don't count your chickens before they hatch. The Mariners made a similar move a few years ago.
They hired Biff Jiggerman, right?
What?
They hired Biff Jiggerman as the play-by-play?
No. They brought in. They signed as a free agent Robbie Ray, who was the defending American League Cy Young Award winner.
You know where he is now?
They traded him somewhere. I forget now who they traded him to.
Giants.
That's right. They did trade him to the Giants. Yes.
He's in his room getting better.
And he was he had a long history of. Now I'm not going to say it was all his fault. Okay, I'm not going to say it because I think he suffered from low run support. But he never lived up to what people thought he was going to be. As a matter of fact, he was so bad 2 seasons ago that the Mariners went out and traded for Luis Castillo, who quickly took over as the #1 guy in the rotation.
And I
don't know that Robbie Ray ever got back from that. One season he pitched, one season he was injured, and then they traded him, I think, in the 3rd season.
By the way, do you know where that expression came from? He never panned out.
From the 1849 Gold Rush.
Vinny's pretty sharp today, ladies and gentlemen. Vinny is on top of his game today.
Well, it's kind of obvious, Michael. I mean, it's if you know a little bit about California history, if you had
asked Donald Trump that question, or Carrie Lake that question, you think she could come up with a reasonable answer?
Why?
Did I ruin your day?
We're 9 minutes and 54 seconds into the show, and you're talking about Donald Trump.
I was just using him as an example.
I'm so sick of it. And I know that we have to talk about it at points. But I was enjoying myself talking about baseball,
I'm
talking about
sorry.
possibilities of what could be, and you come
I'm
along
sorry.
and come up with slapdick. So that we have to talk. So let's talk about slapdick a little bit later. Let's jump into him a little bit later. But I still
Robbie raised a question mark.
yeah, I mean, ever since he won the Cy Young Award, he's a question mark. I mean, he's just always a question mark. And I wish him all the luck in the world because I don't think he did anything bad. I don't know that it was his fault. But he never panned out the way the Mariners thought he was going to be. He should have been a dominant pitcher on that team and should have been the #1 starter. And he had, it's funny because he had decent stuff. It wasn't that even that he didn't have stuff.
They could just hit it.
They seemed in that next season after the Cy Young, they seemed to be able to hit it for whatever reason. I don't know if he was tipping his pitches.
I hope that doesn't visit Blake Snell because the one thing they say about him is his stuff last year was unhittable. He was just unhittable. You could not find a way to get your bat on his ball. And I like that kind of talk.
Well,
so how long has it been? It's been since Madison Bumgarner that we've been looking for an ace.
Well, I hope that he, they're paying him a ton of money, $62 million for 2 years.
Yeah,
for Snell. He's a Seattle guy. I don't know if you knew that.
Did he go to the high school in Seattle?
I'm not sure if he went to, well, I think he did, yeah. I think he's, as a matter of fact, chances are that Blake Snell, because he was born in 1992, so chances are that he knows Mikey and Vinnie, the Mikey and Vinnie show.
It's possible. He's a Mikey and Vinnie listener. Long-time listener, left-handed starter. The thing about Snell, he's been waiting for his deal. He's been working out in Seattle, so he's going to show up kind of late to spring training, but I hope he's in good shape.
Well, a move like this, if nothing else, I think, and here's a guy who's almost 20 games over 500 in his career, his one-loss record. I think that's the kind of move that pumps up a team like the Giants. You bring a guy like that into the clubhouse, and as long as you're bringing a guy in and his attitude is right, and Bob Melvin knows him, so his attitude is going to be right.
I'm putting Melvin in charge of everybody's attitude.
Well, yeah, I mean, since he left Seattle, I have never heard a player complain about Bob Melvin. I heard players complain about him in Seattle a little bit, but he was new. He was learning. I think Bob Melvin has learned his lesson and knows how to manage a ball club.
He certainly had to learn how to manage a ball club with disparate parts when he was with the A's because that team changed every 2 weeks.
Yeah, and he still, how many times did he make the playoffs with that team? Now, he never got into the real money, but he still brought that team to its probably about as good as it could do.
Postseason bonuses were paid.
Yeah. Excuse me?
Postseason bonuses were paid.
Yeah, he got them to the playoffs, and I forget how many years out of the time he was there, but it was a pretty fair amount.
And the funny thing, a lot of people complain about Oakland because it's sort of like a half a team, but he loved it there. Bob Melvin has only the fondest memories of being in Oakland A.
Well, I don't. A
lot of talent went through there. And
yeah,
kept going.
Yeah, it's really kind of an interesting thing because it's a terrible ballpark to play in. It's a good ballpark to pitch in because it's cavernous, and you have such large foul territories that what would normally be an out of play ball in most stadiums these days,
Is an
if not
out.
all, is an out if you have rapid outfielders. And I can tell you right now, there was nothing better than watching Ricky Henderson chase down a foul ball in the corner.
Because he had all of right field and plus another half of right field in the foul territory.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, watching him, I mean, he was like a gazelle. Now, there was always a little bit of a question of whether he was going to catch it or not. But
well, he was going so damn fast.
But it was just about, I mean, he was going to be under it.
It's just his eye-hand coordination might be a step behind.
Yeah, he might have left his glove, but he was under the ball.
I got to the ball before I knew where I was.
I mean, it was a pleasure watching that. And then Canseco out in where did they played him out in left field for a while, didn't they, Canseco?
And he was in right field too. He was in right field
when
the ball hit his head and bounced over the wall.
Yeah, that was in the minors though, wasn't it? When it did that, or was that in?
I thought he was in the A's uniform for that.
I don't know if he was.
Well, it happened to him. It was a sad day.
Yeah, still one of the greatest highlight tapes, reels of ever.
You have to have the sound effect. You have to have the doink, doink, boop, home run.
Let's see. Get through the commercial here. Let's see what the. No, it's the White Sox.
Oh, the Chicago White Sox?
Yeah, he's with the Chicago White Sox.
The hose were rather pale that day.
No, I'm sorry, the Texas Rangers. I thought it was.
I forgot he was even with Texas.
It's the Rangers and the Indians. Such a great clip because he can't.
Does it hit him in the forehead or somewhere on the noggin?
Right on the noggin, right on the top of the head, man. Hits him right on the top of the head. All right, in a long fly ball to right field, back goes Canseco. He puts his glove up. He's falling away from the wall, and as he's falling away, so he's not going to make the catch anyway. The ball hits him on the head and goes over the wall. He's already been up to catch the ball. He's misjudged the ball, first of all. He's got his glove about this far up over the ball. So
he didn't have a prayer.
Yeah, and the ball as it comes right by his arm, hits him on the head, and goes over the wall.
I can do that.
It looks like in Texas.
Oh
no, I should say in Cleveland. Sorry. Cleveland's wearing the white uniforms. One of the
Guardians.
Great all-time. I wonder what the kid, there was a kid holding the ball. I wonder what where that ball is today.
Did he have the gumption to wait for Jose to sign it? Probably not.
I'm not sure that Jose would have signed that ball. I mean, that was, that's one of those things that will keep you engaged. Keep your, I mean, here we are. It's 25 years after it happened, probably, right? And we're looking it up on YouTube. I'm looking it up on YouTube, so it's it's there. But it's something that will, it's like just a storied occurrence. It's something it's a great occurrence. And he'll that film will be shown 100 years from now. People will know who Jose Canseco is because of that moment in his career.
I mean, if that was the same year that.
And they won't remember him for the book he wrote. They won't remember him for so many things, but they'll remember him for that.
Jose, I'm so sorry.
Well, you know what I always say.
What'd you always say?
Jose, can you see?
Not all the way. Not into the mid. I saw the ball.
Not into that, man.
I saw it leave the bat. Yeah, not into that mid. Went into the kids' mid.
Hey, let's give a shout out. Have you filled out your bracket yet? Things start what, tomorrow, right? Or Thursday?
I haven't even looked at it.
There is a Seahawks in the dance.
Where are they from?
I'm going to be very proud now.
There is no such thing as a Seahawk, so I'd like to know where they got that name.
The Wagner College Seahawks won their play-in game, and they are going to take on, I think they get North Carolina in the first round.
Oh.
Yeah.
Immediate reward.
Yeah, the Wagner College Seahawks from Staten Island, New York.
Really? Now, yeah, Vinnie, you've done your time in New York. Have you ever seen a Seahawk flying around the great island of Manhattan?
I can't say as I have. But I've been crapped on by enough birds in New York to know that it's possible that one exists.
Well, that's a gull. A gull has a different. Gulls have different motivation. If you've ever been to Tiburon Tommy's, or ever been to Sam's in Tiburon,
or what was the other place that used to be?
Well, Sam's.
Sam's, that's the place I was thinking of.
But I'm talking about the well-trained seagulls that work that restaurant. They will come and take your butter dish, your French fries. If you put your burger down, keep your hand on your burger. If you're not chewing, just keep your hand on it, because the seagull will swoop in and have good reason to believe that that burger belongs to him or her, as the case may be. But gulls will poop on you.
Yeah, gulls will. Definitely. Yeah, gulls will. They let it go, man.
I had a game I played with the gulls in San Rafael. I lived on North San Pedro Road, and the back of the house opened out onto the bay. And I would take pieces of bread and stand at the back window and throw the bread up in the air, and the gulls would swoop, and I had them going in a circle. There was 20, 30 gulls catching the bread in the air. It was great entertainment. Always kept bread around for the gulls.
The gulls like that? That's the kind of thing that probably makes them crap on everybody. Is you're out there with the bread making them fly in circles, and they're like, oh, look at this guy sitting here making us fly in circles for this.
I was letting him develop a skill.
I'm going to find some human being and.
Well, it wasn't going to be me. They wouldn't poop on their provider. Plus,
so you don't care. So if somebody else, you don't care. I mean, I'm driving along on my convertible out in Sausalito, or even just down the road there into Tiburon, and this bird's now got a full belly of your bread that you've been entertained with, and I'm driving with the convertible. Next thing I know,
the cheapest Wonder Bread I could find, and yes, bread poop could be your companion, and they're in your convertible. What kind of convertible, by the way?
What kind of convertible would have I been? Well, probably then I would have. Let's see, what did I have then? I had a couple of convertibles when I lived in California. I had a Mustang convertible for a while.
That's a good choice. You can get pooped on in a Mustang.
When I first got to California, I had a 67 GTO convertible. I had a Camaro, and I sold the Camaro and bought this 67 GTO. And then I had a little Datsun convertible for a while.
Datsun, the precursor to Nissan.
Yes, Datsun, the precursor to, we can't sell our cars. What the hell are we going to do, Nissan? So anyway,
they having trouble with their.
Oh, go ahead.
Datsun and Nissan having trouble with their sales?
Yes. Yeah, they can't sell them. They're just not. Yeah, they're just not. I'm not going to say they're not good cars, but other cars have just are more technologically advanced. They were
asleep at the switch.
They've been asleep at the switch. They had the whole controversy with the CEO of the company. I don't know if you heard about that, Carlos Ghosn, who was smuggled out of Mexico. I believe it was Mexico. He was smuggled out of a country in a piano box because
because
he had warrants for him.
oh, I see.
They were looking to arrest him, so they packed him in a piano box, put him on a plane. That was it. So Carlos,
Well, with that background, he could be an executive for Boeing now if he wants a
oh yeah,
job.
listen, I'm telling you, man, the biggest thing going on in Boeing right now is they're building crates to get them all out of town. That's I don't know if you saw Frontline. Was it last night or 2 nights ago?
I've taped it. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, there's. I mean, it's something's got to happen up there. I mean, that's bizarre. But
did they think we wouldn't notice that their planes didn't fly?
Maybe not. Maybe they thought that everything's going to be all right. We're Boeing, and it doesn't work
It's a
like
plane
that.
crash. It's bound to be a Boeing. It's not our fault that planes fall out of the sky. They've always fallen out of the sky.
It's really. I mean, it's scary. It makes you think about flying. I saw an interview last night with the head of the FAA, Lester Holt from NBC News, was talking to him, and he outright admitted, they put production before safety.
Hey, that sounds like the American way right there.
And and profits to the shareholders, bigger profits.
Hey,
to the
that sounds like the American way right there.
Well, it's just it's dumb. It's I don't know how you have with how in good conscience you put a system into an airplane and not tell the pilots about it. A system that would affect. I mean, I could see if you put a toilet in the airplane and the stuff in the toilet goes from green to blue when somebody takes a dump in it, and you don't tell the pilot that. That's okay.
The pilot's got enough on his mind.
Yeah, I can
He's
see
such a busy guy. Why cloud his memory?
The catering carts are 4 inches smaller. If you don't tell them that, everything's going to be okay. But when you put a system in the plane that can immediately affect how the plane flies, shouldn't you be telling the pilot that if this happens,
they were afraid it would confuse him?
No, wasn't it they were going to confuse the pilots, Michael? It was that they just didn't want to wait for the regulation time from the FAA.
Because there would have been training involved.
And exactly. And all of these people who always moan, well, we don't want government regulation. We want a free market. We want this. We want that. Well, this is what you get. When you have an industry that needs to be regulated, like the airline industry needs to be regulated, that is responsible for the safety of hundreds of thousands of people a day, millions of people a year, you have to have some kind of regulation. And you can't trust the corporation to regulate themselves.
So if you were to talk to the CEO, you'd say, tell me about your company. Well, we make airplanes. And do they fly? Some of them do. Some have problems that we're going to address. And some just fall right. I'm sitting in my office with a big picture window at the corner of the Boeing building. And every once in a while, I see something drop out of the sky. It could be a Boyd, Choipin.
A plane or Superman.
It could be a plane. It might be Superman. I just saw it out of the corner of my eye. But I'm telling you, if it's a plane, we've got an explanation for it. The perfectly logical explanation.
Yeah, it's astounding to me that when I've looked at this Boeing thing, And listen, if you're here, you have an interest in it because they are the big employer here. Well, I guess Microsoft is probably bigger now, but they are they're one of the main pieces of this town.
It's a big deal and has been for generations.
And it's also an indicator of America because Boeing was the most reliable thing you could buy. You knew if you bought a Boeing plane that it was going to do the job, that it was going to work. You can't always say that about the American auto industry. You can't always say that about a lot of things. But Boeing was the standard. They just didn't crash. They didn't. The whole package was reliability, was safety, was all of the things that you need to run an airline was all wrapped up in Boeing.
I remember Boeing when the doors didn't fly off. I know that sounds like a picayune thing. I'm being very picky. Well, the plane landed, nobody died. Yeah, but the door flew off. Yeah, but in the great scheme of things, who got hurt, really, when you think about it?
Well, when
it didn't even hit anybody on the ground. That's a Boeing door for you. When it flies off, it doesn't hit anybody on the ground.
Since Boeing, since I moved up here, I would always look for, when I could, a Boeing plane to fly on. Alaska Airlines got rid of all their A380s or whatever they were running. I forget which plane they were running, and they had Boeings. They went with an entire Boeing fleet, and I would purposely try to fly Alaska Airlines anywhere I went because I knew they were flying Boeings. And I'm living in Seattle. I talk to people. People tell me, hey, it's a great plane, and we build them up there in Everett and down there in Renton, and come on down to the plant sometime, and I'll take you on a tour, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm feeling like these Boeing dudes are my launchmen, like, all right. My brother-in-law's an aircraft mechanic, and he says, hey, this is a great, these planes work. We don't have problems with them.
It was at one time the standard of the industry, and now you'd be out of your mind if you weren't cautiously optimistic or cautiously pessimistic about getting on a Boeing plane to fly anywhere. Well, especially a 737 stretch.
Yeah, I think that is a I think that is a problem that faces many people now.
Now, I didn't see the frontline thing. I'm going to, but did they talk about the post-construction checkup? You built your plane. We're going to deliver this plane. We're going to test fly it, but have we checked it? Has it been safety checked?
Well, what Frontline said is that they have cut out or they have stopped doing redundant inspections. And when you build something like an airplane, you put the part in, and then an inspector comes along and he looks at it and he checks off on it, or she, and then another inspector comes along and that inspector looks at it and checks on it. And in some cases, maybe a third inspector comes along and looks at it. So you have 3 people that have looked at that job operation, bolting a door into the hole there. But to save money, it appears, allegedly, that they have cut out some of those inspections.
Well, consider their choices, Vinnie. They could have eliminated the door, but they said they need the door, so they couldn't fire the guy who made the door. We needed the door, but the inspector,
when you paint it, all the paint gets inside on the new seats.
You don't want that because those have to be replaced. Good idea. Good point. So, just fire the inspectors. There's a great savings involved in that. Providing the workers put the door.
That's what you have when you have self-policing. That's what you get when you have a system where nobody from the government is looking in on you. Now, if you build a building, let's say the Millennial Tower, you got to have inspectors come by.
Your building's tilting 23 degrees.
See,
well, that's within the wiggle room. Call me when it's 30 degrees.
Well, that's an interesting thing too, because when you look at that, see, that tells me that somebody got paid off there. That these inspectors for the city of San Francisco, went there. That goes back to the same crap that we talked about years ago, where the building inspectors show up, they get an envelope, they stick it in their pocket, and they check off on the job.
Looks good to me.
Now, I'm not saying that that's what happened in the Millennial Tower. For anybody who doesn't know, the Millennial Tower is that tower in San Francisco, downtown San Francisco, that is leaning 23 degrees or something, right?
Yep.
Enough to where if you put a ball on a coffee table in the Millennium Tower, it'll roll down the table.
Nobody plays billiards in the Millennium Tower.
Nope. Joe Montana got a billiard table for his condo in there, his apartment in there, and he can't use it.
He's not using the condo at all.
He goes to the bank, went into the right corner pocket, and it winds up rolling to the left.
Joe, will you sign this for me? I will, but the room keeps moving.
We laugh, but it's really not that funny, right? I mean,
and there's nothing to be done for it. They can't jack it up. It's a high rise. They're going to have to tear it down some fine day.
Well, they keep trying to fix it. They keep trying to pump stuff in there, and the bottom line is, first of all, they didn't sink down to bedrock, because I don't even know if there is bedrock.
Oh yeah, there's bedrock.
I mean, you got to go down. Everywhere.
You got to go down, and you got to go down that far anyway. You got to go down that far anyway to build the earthquake specifications.
So I don't know what they did or how they wound up with this. But yeah,
which, by the way, in the Loma Prieta earthquake, the World Series earthquake, not a single high-rise in downtown San Francisco was damaged or fell or lost its top or lost its foundation or lost windows. Not a one. Now, older buildings did. Brick facade buildings didn't fare that well. But building to precise earthquake specifications is what saved San Francisco during that earthquake.
And also, yeah, I mean, having buildings that had expansion joints, the Transamerica building, which is the big triangle building you always see when you see San Francisco, is built on rollers so that it moves. I mean, not like that, but it moves when there's an earthquake. I mean, there's all sorts of different mechanisms that you can build into a building. I'm not an engineer, but I know that much. I lived there for 14 years.
By the way, if you turn on the television, news anchors are famous right now for telling you what they're not. Well, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a surgeon. We know you're not.
But, well, I don't know. The news anchors, I mean, I know talk show hosts are famous for that. And I got, a couple of uncles and grandfathers that used to say that. I'm not an auto mechanic, but I think you got a carburetor problem there. People have been saying it for years, Michael.
I don't know anything about the 53 Pontiac, but I think you're going to need a water pump.
You're going to need a water pump. I don't know much about this car, but I know this.
Well, if I need one, why didn't they put one in at the factory? Oh, they might have. It's just not a.
Well, they did. It's just it's outlived its planned
obsolescence. Too much water. It pumped water. It pumped water for many good years, but it's not pumping it anymore.
Water pumps used to be something that would go out regularly on cars. I mean, it's probably, I remember it, my father's place. I remember doing a lot of water pumps. I would do them because they were easy to do. They were right at the front of the engine. All you had to do is unbolt it.
Not a lot of room in there. How's your knuckles?
Well, it depended on the car. I mean, don't forget, when I was doing them, cars were big. So if you did if you were taking a water pump off a Chevy, I'm trying to think of the ones that were the Fords were really tough. The Fords made the bottom bolts on the water pump on a V8 engine really hard to get to.
More knuckle problems.
So yeah, you really, but I mean, it wasn't, but Chevy was easy, especially on the '60s Chevys. They had a ton of room between the fan. The only thing you had to do, really, you take the fan shroud off, you take the 4 bolts to take the fan off, pull the pulleys, and you're at the water pump. So if there's air conditioning, one of the brackets used to sit on one of the bolts in the water pump, so you had to take that off. But I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 bolts, I think.
10 bolts.
And
then
it's
the
off.
guy who designed that braking water pump now works for Boeing. He works on the door bolts.
Well, but there was some. I seem to remember that Buicks. There was a Buick that they had that had an aluminum engine. It was
There goes your head gasket.
literally a V8 cut in half. So it's a four-cylinder aluminum block engine.
So you take 2 8s, cut them in half, and you got 2 4s?
Yeah. 1 8, cut it in half. It looked like just a half a V8, which it really was. And for whatever reason, the aluminum that they used wasn't the greatest aluminum in the world, I guess, because the engines, when they get hot, would expand and contract much more than steel, because the metal obviously is lighter.
Right.
And the first place that would get, 2 places would get it. It would get the water pump. You get a leak in the water pump, and you get the head gasket. You'd start getting water in the cylinders, because the head gasket would
crinkle.
With the expansion and contraction, would separate, and you get water.
It was never tight. Yeah, plus, you can't machine aluminum like you can steel to get a machine
the property of it expands. I mean, its property. Yeah. It's a porous steel. It has given it.
So those were known as the exploding Buicks?
No, we didn't have exploding Buicks. Pintos exploded. Pintos were the explode, and Chevy trucks. Those were the exploding cars.
All Chevy trucks? Something about
the Chevy trucks that had the gas tank on the side. In '72, the gas tank was in the cab of the truck. So if you ever
it seems like a good idea, but no.
If you jumped into a '72 Chevrolet, the gas tank was in the cab of the truck, and the filler hose, which was just a piece of rubber radiator hose held on with 2 clamps, always developed a leak. I can't tell you how many 68 to 72 Chevy trucks I drove that smelled like gasoline inside the cab, because they all had either a leak in the tank or vapors that leaked out. So
if you smoke 3 packs of Territons every day.
Yeah, I know there were people that got killed lighting up a cigarette in one of those things. It was more than one person.
Yep.
That got killed. I mean, if you were smart, you smelled the gasoline, you didn't light up a cigarette. But
if you were smart, you weren't smoking Territons in the first place. By the way, they had a micronite filter.
Yes, they did. Who was it? Was it used to do the Territon commercials? Oh crap! John Forsythe. I think used to remember Bachelor Father.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know, there's a million other things. I think he did Territon commercials, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, in '73, they took the gas tank out of the cab because it stunk up. Customers if your customers are burn victims, chances are they don't come back and buy a Chevrolet. So they took the tank out of the cab and they put it in the bed, under the bed, between the chassis rail and the outer fender. So now,
and was that a good idea?
Well, it was okay unless somebody hit you in the side.
A T-bone results in yet another exploding Chevy.
Would be an exploding Chevy, yes. A T-bone on the left side. Now, some Chevrolets, especially the larger V8 Chevrolets and camper specials, were equipped with 2 gas tanks, one on each side in the same place. So
come and get me, copper.
Usually, if you got hit on the right side, probably not a problem. But you had one of those dual tank jobs.
Well, where do they put the gas tanks today in Chevy trucks that still use gasoline?
Put them between the frame rails where they're protected. So if you hit a truck at a certain amount of speed, listen, if you hit something at 60 miles an hour,
combustion.
I mean, it's probably nothing that's going to save you. But if your tank is exterior to the frame rail, a 25 mile an hour collision, which is an easily survivable collision, could kill you. So, you have to, so they put them in. And then they also had that problem, the gas tank problem with Ford police cars. The Crown Victorias had a problem with the exploding gas tanks. If they got hit in the rear, or if they were in pursuit and they backed up over something, the gas tank was hung so low and had no shield on it, skid plate, that would puncture the gas tank.
They could blow up the whole neighborhood if you were thoughtful.
Well, it couldn't go for your friendly police officer that was pursuing you. So
where does Ford put their gas tanks now on their trucks, F-150?
Well, I think they're in the same. I think they're probably in the same place. I think federal regulations now dictate that you can't put them on the outside of the frame rails.
You see, this is what's wrong with America. These federal regulations completely eliminated exploding Crown Victorias. Now they're trying to eliminate the Boeing problem with the doors flying off or the pilots not knowing how the plane flies. They should just leave the Boeing people to their own devices. Most of their planes are probably almost ready to go anyway.
Well,
what is it? 1 out of 10 planes? 1 out of 10 planes is a problem? We can live with that.
Unfortunately, you have, I think in those cases, Mikey, a little cabal. You have the Boeing people are so friendly with the FAA, and it's such an incestuous relationship that's motivated by so much profit. And you have corporate executives who are willing to lie to people. The guy who wrote the memo on the MCAS system that brought the 2 737 MAXs down within a year of each other purposely did not tell the FAA that the system was changed so that they wouldn't have to spend the time to train pilots on it. So now you have a system that's completely different with no redundancy. There's just one little thing sticking out of the side of the plane. And if that thing hits a bird or it for some reason breaks on takeoff, the nose of your plane goes down.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
And well, there's a manual switch in there, but it tends to happen at such a low altitude that you don't have time to do. It's a lot. If you have a plane that's 45,000 feet up in the air or 30,000 feet up in the air, you got a few minutes to think of some things. All right, do I do this? Do I do? When you're at 6,000 feet,
you're toast.
And climbing, you don't have much time to think about anything, I think. Again, I'm not a pilot. It just would tell me that for a plane to fall out of the sky at 7,000 feet, that would be a fairly quick fall. You would just have about enough time.
You guys are killing your customers. Oh, wait, no, not so fast. We're not killing them. These are accidents. It's not murder. It's more like second-degree murder or manslaughter.
Well, you know what, Mikey? These are the things that people have to think about when they vote.
Or when they fly.
Or when they fly. Although I will say that this, these things, this is not something that's Democratic or Republican. It's that we have administrators that are looking for shortcuts.
Are you suggesting it's Scandinavian? That's a Seattle joke.
Yes. I don't know what it is, but it shouldn't be. I think, personally, I think the FAA should have hired, 100 inspectors to go into the Boeing plants and watch everything they do and charge Boeing for it. Say, we're going to put 100 inspectors in these plants or whatever the number is.
You've shown that you don't know how to make these planes. We're going to have to follow up on this.
Right. And until you straighten this out, until you figure out how to straighten this out, and I think it goes toward another thing, Michael, and this is something that we see. How many times have we seen it in this I don't know, in our era, is, we all always talk about made in America. Everybody wants to be get the jingo thing and be made in America, and I'm all for that. But the stuff that's made in America is not what it used to be. You used to look at American cars and the people took pride in what they were making. Now it's different. I don't know that the people that work in Boeing take the same pride in their airplanes that they used to.
I think you use the phrase disgruntled to describe everyone you knew who worked for Boeing. All current employees are not quite as bullish on Boeing as you might expect. And you can give them the question: Is this plane going to fly? It could.
It could.
And it might.
Is it going to drop? It could. And I think that's
they take off. They take off better than they land. We got the taking off part done. Landing, we're still a little iffy.
American pride is not putting a flag in front of your house. American pride is not going to a rally with some guy talking about people poisoning the blood of our country. American pride is doing the best job that you can do at a particular thing that you're doing. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're working on, whatever you do, American pride, to me, is patriotism, is when you are a craftsman, you craft something as well as you can. If you are a repairman, you repair something as best as can be. If you're a manufacturer, you manufacture something as best as it can be manufactured. That's what America, to me,
and if you're an engineer, remember, if you're an engineer, put the gas tank underneath the passenger compartment in your Ford truck or your Chevrolet truck. We've seen the good side and the bad side of this, but I would put it there. There's room.
Well, again, You're saving money. How much more of a gas line, how much longer of a pipe would it have been to put the gas tank in a safer place between the chassis rails of the trucks so that they don't explode?
Or
How
not
much
have
more
it
weight?
all held on with a clamp.
Right, the gas tank in the Pinto and move it up over the, I don't know. I mean, again, it just seems illogical to me that companies make these kind of mistakes, but they do.
Do you know the retail for one 737 Max?
No,
If you're going to buy it off the shelf?
no, but we could call Boeing and find out on our next show if you want to. Just give them a call and say how much is that.
They're
How much is
going.
the plane in the window?
Forget about the retail price. We're selling them for cheaper than that right now.
Well, it's I believe in that Frontline show that I saw that Boeing was actually giving money back. They were rebating on planes because they were worried that people were afraid to buy them.
So they're willing to sell you a
America,
plane that'll fall out of the sky, but they'll give you a break on it.
they were rebating. Okay, the 737. Okay, the 737 Max 200 is $124.8 million. The 737 Max 9 is $128.9 million. The 737 Max 10 is $217.9 million. No, the Max 10, excuse me, is 134.9, and the 767 300 ER, which I think is that huge cargo plane, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that's a passenger plane. 217.9.
And does ER stand for emergency room? Hopefully somebody will make it there, make that far. Right.
So, I mean, it's...
And are the gas tanks underneath the pilot?
No, they're underneath the passengers that sit over the wings. That's where the tanks are. The jet fuel tanks are in the wings, right? Let's see. There was another thing. Moody's estimates Boeing operating margin to be $12 to $15 million for each 737 at its list price of $121.6 million.
That's quite a bit of wiggle room per unit, 12 million bucks.
Yeah, I'd like to get the commission on that. All I'd have to do is sell one and I'd be okay, right?
Of course, it depends which one you sell, turns out.
Oh, man. The Max 9 grounding cost Alaska Airlines $150 million. No wonder I can't get to Pittsburgh on a cheap fare. Well, they're back in service.
Oh, yeah, everything's been checked out. They're fine. They're fine. What are you worried about?
Well, I think that, I think that the system with the FAA and the relationship between them and Boeing has to change. I don't think it will. And I can for sure tell you that one candidate may at least look at it. Another candidate will probably cut back what you see as regulation.
So maybe we have too many agencies. Maybe the people who actually investigate the crash should be investigating the engineering. What do you guys investigate at the FAA? We don't investigate, we administer. What happens when one falls out of the sky? Well, that's the NTSB. They take care of that. We don't fool around with that. Once it falls out of the sky, we're done. We are done. That's another agency. Call them. We have no comment on that. We signed off on it when it was flying, but it flew into the ground. Well, when it hit the ground, that's when it became an NTSB plane. FAA all the way from takeoff to crash, but beyond the crash, we are not involved. Just pilot wash these hands. We can too. Same water, by the way.
Wow. Yeah, I think we're. I don't know. I think people are it used to be you get on a plane and you feel fairly confident that everything is going to be okay. And I think
Well, the
obviously
FAA doesn't have. FAA doesn't have safety in its name. FAA, we administer crap. When you fly, that's fine. When you crash, it's not our problem. It's not even our concern. It's not even our investigation. You got to go to the safety board. You don't see safety in our name, do you? FAA, we administer. We don't administer. It could be right. It could be wrong. There could be safety. There could be no safety. That's not our problem. It's not our job. We administer, and we do that. We do a beautiful job. Now, when there's a crash and you're after safety, it's a little late, but the safety board shows up. Yeah. Where? At the crash.
Well, I want to see what happens.
They'll meet you at the crash. We're going to look into it. And when the plane's in parts, it's easy to look into it. You can see inside right away.
Well, I'll tell you who loves Boeing right now, and that's Amtrak. Because I would have to think that more people are jumping on Amtrak these days to take a trip than ever before. I know that Seattle.
Maybe you can take an Uber to Pittsburgh.
No, that Seattle to. I wouldn't mind taking a train to Pittsburgh, to be honest with you. I wouldn't. That wouldn't be a bad ride.
How long do you think that would take?
Well, I'm going to say 3 days. I'm thinking you're looking at 3 days. Probably. Let me look.
Is the old train station let you off in downtown Pittsburgh, or where does it terminate?
Right at the edge of the Strip District, right downtown. The station's right there under the what's the name of that hotel? There's a beautiful old Grand Central. No, not the Grand Central. That's in.
The Terry Bradshaw Hotel.
No. It's a beautiful old hotel that they've restored.
The Chuck Noll Hotel.
Yeah. No. But let's see. Let's just have some fun. So let's see. Seattle, King Street Station, to Pittsburgh, Union Station. That's what it is. Depart date. Let's go with April 1st for shits and giggles. Okay. Find trains. If you want a private room, it's $1,296. If you want a coach, it's $275 if you want to sit in a seat for 3 days. It's 57 hours and 10 minutes. You would leave Seattle Monday, April 1st at 4:55, and you would get into Union Station in Pittsburgh Thursday, April 4th.
So 3 days is about it.
Yeah.
The better part of 3 days.
You take the Empire Builder for 45 hours and 50 minutes. That's the one that leaves out of here. And what they do with the Empire Builder is they run one section of it out of here and another section out of Portland, and then they get together and they make the trip across the country. You transfer in Chicago, Illinois. You have an hour and 55 minutes to transfer.
Wow.
And then you take the Capital Limited for 9 hours and 25 minutes to Pittsburgh.
Should I expect the doors to stay on the train, or do they fly off periodically? What's your feeling about that?
I think the only problems you have with the trains are, for the most part, idiots that decide that they don't want to stop at the railroad crossings. I mean, you get a derailment every once in a while, and sometimes the trains stack up, sometimes they don't. You know, it's a crapshoot too.
Usually in Ohio, if you're going to take a train, just do not go through Ohio.
Yeah, which I would have to go through on the Capital Limited. I don't think there's a way around Ohio doing that. But it might be a pretty cool trip on Amtrak. $75, man. That's the only thing is how much money you spend on food on the train, because the food is on the train is expensive. But I don't know. Maybe that's an option.
You got to go to the dining car sooner or later, or the club car, because you've been in your seat now for 3 days. You got to get up and walk. You got to get to puts on some miles, train a little bit.
Yeah, you got to get up and walk around. Yeah, I don't know how you could. I mean, that's a trip. It's a trip and a half, but I bet you it's a beautiful trip. I mean, coming from here, I'm sure you go through, the Rockies. Montana, Colorado, Wyoming. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you go through all of. Well, no, you probably don't know if you go through the Rockies. I don't know if you go as far down as Colorado, but I'm sure you go
to Chicago somehow.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to. You go through Utah and Wyoming. Or no, Wyoming first, then Utah, North Dakota, maybe South Dakota. I don't know how exactly the route of the train, but well, you know what?
And if you have to change the water pump on a locomotive, it takes a little longer. There's more than 12 bolts.
Well, yeah, the water pump. Well, these days, I don't know if they have. Well, they have water cooling, I think, in those things. But
giant batteries.
Their electric diesel battery. Those Amtrak trains are all electrical. Man, I bet you that's a beautiful ride. I know going across Canada. I've taken a train across Canada, and that is something you got to see, man. If you do anything in your life once, man, go take the train across Canada from Vancouver
to
Toronto. Yeah, I mean, it's just Canada is just such a beautiful country. It's just
you can study up so you can make some money on the cash cab.
Yeah, you get out of Toronto, you get in the cash cab, you make your fare back, and you're in.
I like it.
All right. Well, anything else we got before we call it a show?
Let's call it a show. I don't know the last time we both wore red shirts, but today was the day.
Well, today, yeah, we're matching today. Look at that. We're the Bobbsey twins. All right. I will enjoy. Are you going to watch any of the NCAA stuff on Thursday?
Yeah, I always get sucked into it.
We'll root for the Seahawks.
Wagner College. Have you been to Wagner College? Are you familiar with the campus?
Oh yeah. No, I used to go. When I lived in Brooklyn, I dated a couple of girls on Staten Island, and one of them went to Wagner College. It's right. It's not far from where the campus of the College of Staten Island, City University of New York, was, right off of Clove Road, I think.
Now, if you were to interview the professors at Staten Island College, would they agree that Donald Trump have the election stolen from him and that Joe Biden is not the real president, or how would they come down on that, do you think?
Well, Staten Island's a bit of a weird place, Michael. I think you might find more people that think Trump is president on Staten Island than you do
That's
Biden.
what I believe. Yep.
Yep. And now I don't know about
thank God Fifth Avenue does not run through Staten Island, because Donald Trump can kill people on Fifth Avenue, but not on Staten Island.
No, Staten Island is a thing all unto itself. And you
got to find a ferry to get you there.
We don't have enough time to talk about Staten Island today, but we will in a future show. So go Seahawks. I want to see what Wagner College do a little damage here. Get it? I mean, wouldn't it be great? I don't think there's ever been there's been 116 upset to 1, hasn't there? Or has there ever been?
It has to be. Over time, there had to be.
I don't know if there ever was a 16 over a 1, unless it happened in a couple of recent years. So no time like the present.
Let's
who used to be the football coach at Wagner College?
Tommy Tedesco. I'm just guessing.
No, he was the guitar teacher. Rich Kotite, former head coach of the New York Jets.
Wow. Because everybody gets to coach the Jets sooner or later, for a little while, for a couple games.
Sign up, baby.
The next coach for the Jets should have a big press conference and say, I plan to stay for a couple games, first couple games of the season, but I'll be gone by midseason. And I'm renting, I'm not buying.
No. If you're the coach of the Jets, you don't buy. You're renting Fort Lee. That's what you do. You go to Fort Lee, or maybe Weehawken.
Get a nice apartment on Center Avenue.
Get yourself a nice apartment there. Used to be a great Jewish deli in Fort Lee, man. I remember I used to work in Leonia, which is like one town over from Fort Lee. And there was this Jewish deli in Fort Lee that was off the charts. I remember this place. I used to go, I would have to go over there in the morning to Leonia before I went out on the road. And I would go, and if I was in the office long enough, like till 11 o'clock, I'd go over to Fort Lee first, and get a container of matzo ball soup and a pastrami sandwich, a couple of Dr. Browns.
Ready to go.
Hit the New Jersey Turnpike, man, to Perth Amboy, or wherever I was going that day.
Although it stands out as from the rest of the area around New York and New Jersey, the Palisades are beautiful. So visit those, take a good look.
Palisades are gorgeous, yes. And even though there was another good place. See, now you got me. See, this is what you do. You put me on these memory lane things. And the next thing I know, I'm thinking about, there was a great hot dog place in just south of Fort Lee. A hot dog stand. And this hot dog stand was like unbelievable. This place used to have a line around the block to get hot dogs. It looked like Geno's or Pat's in Philadelphia, except with hot dogs.
Or Tail of the Pup in Hollywood.
Yeah. It was always a line at this place to get a hot dog, man. And that's why I probably never stopped there. I stopped a couple of times, but the hot dog was good, but it wasn't much better. It was good, but it wasn't much better than what you could get off a cart in New York. Or if you really wanted a good hot dog, you took the trip down to Coney Island and went to Nathan's.
There you go. That's where you start.
And they had the hot dog. They still do, man. Those Nathan hot dogs, man, are still, they grill them. They don't put them in water. They grill them.
Much better. And they answer to a higher authority.
Yeah, there's still nothing like biting into that, hearing that crack when you bite into a Nathan's hot dog, man. The skin breaking. Oh, I want a hot dog now. Oh, man. All right, I'll see you on Friday, Mikey, if the Lord's willing, the creek don't rise. Peace.
Get yourself a hot dog and a water pump, Vinnie. Good luck to you. As
long as we're in Brooklyn, baby. Peace, love, and Manischewitz.
What a wine. Stay off those planes. Everybody deboard. Take the train.
Bye now. Thank you all for listening too. Have a good one. We'll see you on Friday morning. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you are enjoying the show and you're watching it on YouTube, please do me a favor and subscribe to us. We want to break 1,000 subscribers. I know a lot, it's not a lot, but we're getting closer. I see people all the time, a lot of new people watching the show. Please go on YouTube. Please subscribe to us. And we appreciate it. We'd like to keep doing the show, and subscriptions help the show move along. Okay? All right. See you on Friday. Bye-bye now.